Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Brother Henry Harris. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we have a special guest, Reverend Stephanie Lape. Reverend Stephanie Lape is the pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Stephanie speaks and teaches on matters of spiritual and psychological development, biblical studies, the enneagram personality tool, and comparative religions. Today we'll be having an interesting dialogue or subject on why do people lie? Why do people lie? I thought it was a very interesting question. This seems like a simple question which should create a simple answer, right? I am sure at one time or another in our lives, we've all have lied, or maybe we have been lied to. But I believe in so many ways we've never asked ourselves, why do people do it? So in today's episode, we will try to figure out from various perspectives on why this is so. I'm honored to have this dialogue with Reverend Stephanie today. For those who do not know what the word lie means, basically it just means an untrue statement with the intent to deceive, to create a false or misleading impression. And with that being said, Reverend Stephanie Lape, thank you so much for being on the Brother Henry and You Show tonight.
Thank you, Brother Henry. It is such an honor. I'm in support of your work. I know you've been doing this kind of thing for so long, and I very much appreciate the honor of being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So when I say the word, when I think of the word lie, the thought of manipulation is coming in my mind too. When I think of the word lie, manipulation and deception. What comes to your mind when I say the word lie or lying?
The first thing that comes to my mind is how complex this whole subject is, because it could be a blatant untruth that someone tells someone. It could be a half-truth that is manipulated. It could be just withholding what is true and not saying anything, but still, because you're withholding some important information, that could be a lie. And people could lie not just with their words, but their whole lifestyle, their choices. There's just so many ways to go about this. And it is very interesting to look at why people do this. It is such a common occurrence, and we generally trust people and trust what they say, but it happens all the time. And we either find ourselves doing it or it's done to us. It's very common, and yet it's so rare where we ask ourselves the question, why is this even happening?
Yeah. Why do you think people lie?
I think that there are a variety of reasons why. And sometimes in ministry, we talk about there's an issue or a presenting issue, and then there's the reason behind the issue. So the presenting issue is that people will tell an untruth or a half-truth, or they won't reveal the truth. But what's behind it could be a variety of motivations. One motivation is a fear of losing control, because we want to maintain the information given to someone and even create information that's not even true because we want to maintain a sense of control, controlling our environment. And often we say, well, we're lying to prevent somebody else from being in pain. We don't want someone to be in pain. When in reality, what we mean is we don't want to deal with their pain.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't want them to have it, because people have pain all the time, but we don't want to be the ones to face it, to face that kind of pain coming back at us. Maybe somebody would be angry with us if we did reveal the truth. So that's one reason, fear of losing control. Adrienne Rich wrote a great essay on lying, and this people could just Google this, Adrienne Rich. And she said that lying is the attempt to make simple what really is much more complicated or ought to be more complicated. So if we want to keep our work life simple, if we want to keep our friendships simple, if we want to keep our marriages simple, then we tell a story of simplicity because it takes more courage to deal with all of the fallout of admitting that things are more complicated than that.
I like that.
So that's one reason people lie, because it takes courage to deal with the complicated nature of real life. Life can be messier than just kind of a simple answer. And yet, again, we want to maintain control and have simplicity.
Yeah.
Another reason I think that people, and this might be, and I'm getting to like a deeper reason, but this is maybe a more defensible reason people lie, might be that people think that somebody else hasn't earned the right to know the truth.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, so you don't, I mean, one extreme example is like if the Nazis were coming to my house and I was hiding Jews, and the Nazis said to me, "Are there Jews in your house?" I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
That's lying, but I do it because the Nazis haven't earned the right to know the truth. Mm-hmm. And there's a greater harm that would come if I told the truth, and that would be the Jews being arrested and killed. So that's maybe the more defensible reason that some people might lie at times, to protect a higher truth, a higher cause, or somebody hasn't earned the right to know the truth. Another example is, Brené Brown is a well-known author, and she writes a lot about vulnerability and having the courage to expose who you really are to people. And yet she says, but not everybody has earned the right to know who you fully are.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't so much about blatantly lying, but it is about that we control the truth of what people know. And if we are in a situation that's not emotionally safe, then we don't want to lay all our cards on the table. We want to be careful who we tell the entirety of the truth to, and we need to discern that. So again, those are more defensible reasons for lying, perhaps.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like what you just said close to the end, because I had wrote that down here, that the reason, this ain't the only reason why I used to lie in the past, but one of the main reasons or ultimate reasons why I used to lie, and I put it right here, they may feel they are in an environment or space where they can't be honest.
Yes.
And there were times where I feel like if I was, well, that's true about who I am or something that I did, sometimes it depends on the setting or the space or who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. It's not that you really want to lie to them. It's just that it's just the space that you're in. Like if I fully told them the truth, will they retaliate? Will they judge me?
Right. And you get to, we can look at lying and just say, it's bad, it's evil, it's wrong. And there are those who are narcissists or who have some kind of psychological neurosis, or they're really into gaslighting and making people think that they're crazy and have a much more selfish intent. And that's why they lie. But I think that another huge reason that people lie is not because they're trying to be evil, bad, or wrong, but it's because the issue, again, behind the issue of lying, the issue is that there's a deep insecurity, a deep lack of love or confidence for who the person really is. And if the person felt that they would be honored, accepted, safe, valued, then they would be more willing to share that information than if they feel that they're going to be unsafe. Because at our deepest level, at our biological DNA level, our main priority is survival. Our main priority is being part of the group. And of course, many, many years ago, you had to be part of a group in order to survive. You couldn't just go it on your own. You needed a group, a community to keep you safe from animals that are attacking, or a variety of reasons that could be unsafe, wars, floods, famines. And so you do what it takes to be part of the group. And so if people feel that they're going to be ostracized, isolated, cut off, shunned, then that is a much greater fear. And so they feel like, well, I'm going to at least survive. And I'll say what I need to say. I'll do what I need to do in order to survive. Or a person feels it's just a lack of respect for their own self. They don't have self-love. And therapists tell us that behind almost every psychological issue, depression, financial issues, divorce, addiction, behind almost every psychological issue is the issue of lack of self-love.
That's good. Do you think lying comes in different forms?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, it could be by what people say. It could be by what people don't say. I actually think that one of the big forms is, and we see this so much in modern American culture, our culture has historically supported deception.
Mm-hmm.
So in different ways, for men, often men have been expected to lie about their emotions.
Oh yeah. Oh
To
yeah.
not say when they're sad, to not cry,
Mm-hmm.
to not show weakness. That's lying.
Mm-hmm.
To present a persona of always being in control, on top of everything. The only emotion that men have been allowed to express that was a so-called negative emotion is anger.
Mm-hmm.
But not sadness, not anxiety. I mean, the understanding of,
You gotta be tough.
boys don't cry. Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Women, on the other
Yeah,
hand, have been
right.
expected to lie about their bodies,
Mm-hmm.
to bleach, to nail polish, to cosmetic, to have surgeries, to change and morph their bodies, to not show the truth of aging.
Mm-hmm.
Also, women have been expected to say they're in happy marriages, even if they're being abused, to say to everybody, I'm doing just fine, even if they're not. So our culture has supported deception in some ways. Now, in modern American culture, we have social media where we are expected to present a curated image of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to not tell the truth entirely, to show parts that we want to be seen, to create a character, in a sense.
Cause you
We're
really
expected,
don't know. I
yeah,
thought about that the other day too. I said, you really don't know people like unless
yeah,
you take the time to get to know them.
yes,
What we see on Facebook doesn't always mean you shouldn't look at that at face value.
yes. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you meet somebody in person and you think you're nothing like what I thought you were. And it could be that somebody seemed very tough and strong on Facebook, and then
Yeah.
you meet them and they're this kind, gentle person, or it could be the opposite.
Yep.
That on social media they look like a kind, gentle person, and when you meet them, they're very tough and strong, and you're like, oh, that's really interesting. We present a curated image of
What we
ourselves.
want people to see.
We also, again, this is one of the socially accepted, what the church would call a sin, but it's socially accepted.
Mm-hmm.
We say, fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and lie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That, put on your game face. We encourage people to present an image of what they think should be seen rather than encourage people to be authentic.
Wow.
I think this starts when kids are young. People are born into the world, crying when they're hungry, sleeping when they're tired, being 100% authentic as babies, and they quickly learn through parents and school when to be quiet, when to settle down, what's appropriate, what's not, and how to deceive.
Mm-hmm. So some people lie for for no reason. Everything they say is a lie, is deceptive. My question to you is this on purpose, or are there some people even aware that they're lying?
Well, again, it's complex. I mean, when we say that they lied for no reason, there's probably a reason. We just can't. We
Yeah.
just can't see it. It could be deep insecurity, deep lack of self-confidence, self-love, or it could be habit, because the more you do something, the easier it is to keep doing it. So, it could be very difficult the first time. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the bigger and broader it gets, and the more you see you get away with it, and how you have control over people, and that's just easy to do. And so it gets easier and easier, and it can become a habit like anything else. People also sometimes lie to cover up deep pain. If they have an addiction going on, it's very hard for people to get out of addiction or even ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lie could be to cover up that. It could be to cover up an abusive relationship. It could be, like I said before, gaslighting could be happening to them, where they think that they're crazy. They're not even sure what the truth is. There are so many reasons behind why somebody's lying, but generally people don't lie for no reason. It's just that we can't see what the reason is.
Yeah.
And it's so covered up. Yeah.
Um, question 5 is, what are some of the lies that maybe you've heard over the years? I've heard everything. People lie from cheating on their taxes, their relationship status, their job, their age, their
Mhm.
lifestyle. We talked about that. People portraying the image of themselves that's not authentically them.
Yeah.
People have lied about the living arrangements, money. What are some of the lies that maybe
So
you've
many.
heard
Yeah.
over the years that people have lied to you about?
Yeah. Well, this isn't to me, but this is something that as a pastor, I've heard many times is people in the LGBTQ community feel that they must lie
Hmm.
about their sexual orientation, if they're gay, transgender, because they don't feel that they're safe
Hmm.
being themselves. And this can manifest in the form of, I've known many people who knew that they were gay, lesbian, bisexual, but they married somebody that they thought was more accepted by their family or their church and lived an entire life of a lie.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what happens often to these folks that I've known is that, decades into a marriage that they should never have had,
Hmm.
um, the pain of being so inauthentic just is crushing.
Hmm.
And so they have to very courageously deal with telling the truth. And then, so many people are so hurt. And I just, it's so tragic because if this person had felt growing up that they were loved and accepted, as, I always say, God made you as God meant to, God's not making mistakes, but that kind of acceptance is not always readily available. And it doubly pains me because as a representative of the church, I'm in one faction of the church that does accept people if they're gay or transgender, but I know that many people have not felt that from the Christian church, and that's very tragic, painful. I don't think Jesus would support that kind of, shaming people like that.
Hmm.
But that's one way of creating an entire lifestyle of a lie that
Hmm.
has hurt so many people. Um, Other ways that I've personally been lied to is when people want to categorize aspects of their life. And so someone's relationship with me is different from other parts of their relationship or other parts of their life. And so people think I don't need to know information that really might affect me because they're thinking it's just a different category.
Yeah.
So this is how people can have affairs by thinking, you're in my category of the affair, but you don't need to know about the fact that I'm married or that I'm seeing somebody else. That's another category. You don't need to know that. Or you don't need to know my finances, or you don't need to know that I'm running from the law.
Hmm.
You just need to know that I'm in relationship with you. You're my friend or you're my partner. You don't need to know those other things or about my addiction. You don't need to know that. And so then, when you find out, you feel very much lied to. And then the person's like, what? That had nothing to do with you. That wasn't about you.
Hmm.
So those are some common ones. But as I said, our culture supports it. If you look at in the history of the Christian church, we've talked about the 7 deadly sins,
Hmm.
and like gluttony, sloth, pride, lust. Those kinds of things are more obviously lifted up as sins. Like that's going to hurt you and others.
Hmm.
And that's how we understand sin in the church. Like when you're not being your best self, you're not being the person God wants you to be, you're not living in alignment with who you should be according to God. And we know that sin is just what it turns us away from God and hurts ourselves
Hmm.
and others. But we don't talk about deception.
Hmm.
Deception, lying is not one of the 7 deadly sins.
Hmm.
And so some people have said more recently that it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it clearly hurts ourselves and others. Yeah.
That's good. One lady, when I had posted on Facebook that asking the question, why do people lie? One lady had commented and said that her husband was an compulsive liar. What does that mean? What is a compulsive
Yeah.
liar?
Yeah. It could mean that somebody is literally addicted to the activity of lying. And anything can be an addiction. Anything can be, going to church can be an addiction. I mean, anything can be an addiction.
Hmm.
But an addiction spiritually is when a person goes after a substance or behavior, thinking this will make me happy, this will fill that void in me, this will stop the pain, this will help me feel bliss or peace or love or joy, whether it's alcohol or gambling or lying, this will help me feel in control and on top of things. And the instinct to feel good is not a bad instinct. The instinct to feel happy, the instinct to feel peaceful and joyful, these are natural human instincts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, again, as a pastor, what we say is, nothing but God will fill that God-shaped hole in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so going after all these other behaviors, activities, whether it's lying, whether it's drugs, whether it's compulsive shopping or anything, you're gonna find that there might be a little bit of a hit, a kind of a dopamine hit, like the chemicals in your brain that make you feel good for a little bit. I mean, for me, I like shopping. So if I go and I buy a new shirt, I'm going to be super happy about the new shirt for about, maybe a day, but that quickly dies off. It's not lasting.
Yeah.
So being a compulsive liar could be very much an addiction, and that it feels good to control, to manipulate, to create a story that is believed. And it could give that dopamine hit, which then, as addictions do, if it's truly an addiction, it rebounds so that now you don't feel the goodness, you feel deep shame. And then the only way to get out of that is to do it again. And so you go back and forth on the crazy cycle from the positive hit to the deep despair, the shame. You go back and forth, and you have to do it more and more and more to keep up the good feeling, to mask the bad feeling. The only way to get off of any addictive cycle is to step off of the crazy merry-go-round and find true peace, true love, true joy in something more stable and secure.
Wow, this is so good. I could talk about this all day.
I know, it's fantastic.
You really done your homework. It seems like you're very knowledgeable about, and I'm learning. If I'm quiet a little bit, it's because I'm actually learning a lot from you. I always felt that I always wanted to be a student. And I feel like that's very important that you learn from people, even things that maybe you didn't even know about. I never looked at compulsive liar as something, as I didn't know that was even connected to an addiction. But now it makes a lot of sense why someone would say my friend is a compulsive liar or my husband or whatnot. So I appreciate you taking the time to analyze that and break that down. A lot of times people say they can look at somebody, well, it's what they say, eye contact, body language. Can you always look at someone and determine that they're being deceptive?
I don't think it's always the case. I think that there are times, if people don't have eye contact, if people are blinking a lot. I mean, we see Richard Nixon, when he was lying to the American public on television, we see that he was blinking a lot, and that's a way to the understanding that eyes are the window to the soul, and so we want to cover our eyes so that people can't see inside our soul and see the real truth. So that's why we often don't have eye contact or are blinking in those circumstances. However, lots of people have other reasons for not having eye contact or blinking. So we can't assume that if somebody's not looking at us or they're blinking a lot, that they necessarily are lying. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Sometimes people have medical conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, or if somebody's on the Asperger's autism spectrum, that's very difficult to hold eye contact.
Yeah.
So it could be all kinds of reasons for that. But that's one thing that people do or tend to do when they're lying.
Yeah. And my last question is, can someone always discern if they are being lied to? And after you answer that question, you said you had wrote a book, and I would love for you to let our audience know about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I don't think you can always do anything, but I do think that sometimes you can discern. And I think that that's not so much by watching body language, but by checking in with your spirit, listening to your own intuition. I think we know a lot more than we think we know.
Mhm.
And we pick up on subtle body language cues, even unconsciously. And we pick up on language cues unconsciously. And sometimes our spirit gives us a sense that this isn't right, or this isn't right for me, or this isn't right for now. And I mean, spiritually, we can say it's the Holy Spirit talking to us.
Mhm.
It's almost like we don't see, like how fish don't see the water in which they swim.
Yeah.
And yet everything you do to the water affects every fish, not just one fish, but all of them in the vicinity. And so too, we don't see the energy in which we swim. I mean, in the Bible, it talks about how in Christ we all live and move and have our being. We can't see this.
Mhm.
We talk in the spiritual world about things that are invisible.
Mhm.
And yet it doesn't mean it's not there just because it's invisible. We can feel, we can pick up on things. You know, sometimes you can walk into a room and you feel, you sense the love there.
Mhm.
You feel you can sense if there was an argument and you walked in and everybody's quiet, but you can sense, and you're sensing from the energy, you're sensing from the cues, the physical bodily cues. So I think if we pay attention to our own inner spirit and the messages given to us, and we might have to go away and be quiet and be still and kind of look inward to even be aware of that. It's not as obvious as just the things we see, hear, touch, you know, the five senses, but I think we can pick up on some things
Yeah.
that the Holy Spirit tells our spirit.
That's amazing. And you wrote a book called what again?
I did, yes. I wrote a book called Beckoned. In fact, I have a copy right here. Right here. Beckoned.
Woo!
Subtitled Hearing God's Call to Deeper Faith. And it's on Amazon. Yeah, I wrote it during quarantine because I'd always wanted to write a book. And, you know, during lockdown, I just had a little bit more time and ability to do that. My mother was raised in a very shaming division of Christianity. And so she grew up feeling like Christianity was just harmful.
Mhm.
And I was not raised as a Christian. I was not raised in the church at all. And yet I had some very loving grandparents and other people that influenced me to take a look at what Christianity was all about. So then I joined a church and was baptized when I was 15. And I then entered into lots of different denominations along the way, exploring faith issues. So I was Presbyterian for a while. I was Catholic. Then I was in a non-denominational church for a while. Now y'all know I'm Lutheran. Also, and so I write about that whole journey, but also I was a comparative religions professor for many years. And so I write about what I've learned from the world's religions. And then I also write about my journey into ministry, which was very, unraveling a lot of what I thought about myself and what I thought I knew about God, and just following God's voice. So that's what this is about. It's like a travel log, a spiritual travel log of my life. But I did this not just to show my life, because I could have written in a journal on my own,
Mhm.
but I did this so that I could help people look at their own spiritual lives and where they have journeyed and where God has beckoned them, and just to give themselves a chance to think, what did I get as a gift from my parents or grandparents? What do I want to accept from them? What do I want to leave behind?
Mhm.
How do I understand God now? How do I understand my own spirit, my own spiritual journey now? And so I've taught a lot of classes with this book. And I have some reflection questions that accompany it. And I can send you those if you'd like the
Oh
questions.
yeah, I
I
would
didn't
love it.
I didn't think to write the questions until this was published, so they're not in the book. But group studies have been used, you know, in churches with this book to help people understand their own spiritual journeys. So
That's amazing.
it
We
was
would
fun to
like
write.
to encourage all of our viewers to go to Amazon and order that book. Is called what again?
It's
Beckon.
called Beckoned: Hearing God's Call to Deeper Faith.
And I really enjoyed this conversation. I soaked a lot of it up myself and learned a lot myself, and I'm pretty sure that our audience um, is weighing in. I would like to hear from you. Put in the comment section. Maybe we didn't touch on some things that you may be pondering and thinking about. Why do people lie? Let us know in the comment section. As always, if you have enjoyed today's show, hit the like button, comment, share. This helps us get the word out there. But I thought this was an amazing show, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Henry. Such an honor to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.